Hi everybody, it's Jared Dean from Missing Persons of America. I'm going to go over the case of Ryan Zimmerman. The police are asking for help on this case. That's coming up in just a sec.
And you know, this is really important to us. Ryan, obviously a 21, 22-year-old young man, had his whole life ahead of him. There is no reason that his life was cut short. He's got two brothers and a sister, correct? Two brothers and a sister, and a mother and a father. We owe them an explanation.
In January 2016, a woman, she was walking her dog at the Grand Lake St. Mary's State Park in Ohio, and she ran across some bones. Now, she thought they might be human bones, so she contacted the police. The police came over, and they felt that they were likely human bones also. So they gathered what was there, and they took it over for forensics. Now, they tried to identify who it was, but they weren't able to. And as they were looking at the bones, they realized that the bones had been sawed. The neck had been sawed, so there was no head. The lower parts of the arms and the legs had been taken away from the body, and they did not have any way of trying to determine who this person was because they could not go get dental records because there was no skull.
And during that autopsy, evidence was gained to lead us to believe that this was a homicide or a murder investigation. We don't have a complete skeleton, but it was very clear that the body was dismembered. And when I say that, it's not just that we are missing some of the skeletal remains. We can show that the head was actually cut off at the spinal column. We have the saw marks that indicate that. We never did find the skull, and at least at this point, we believe that that was discarded in some other location. We don't have any bones that were recovered that would be below the elbows or below the knees. So basically, we have the torso area of the skeleton.
So they weren't sure who this person was. And it wasn't until May of 2017 that they reached out to this company called ISO Forensics. And they asked him, would you be able to determine where this person grew up, where they lived? And they took dirt samples. And not only were they able to figure out the person lived in Kentucky, they were able to figure out they lived in Corbin, Kentucky. So now they had a location that they could narrow it down. So they decided to go through people that were missing from that area. And it was earlier this year that the Columbus police reached out to Ryan Zimmerman's parents, and they asked him, could you give us some DNA so we can see if there's a match? And it turned out there was a match. And Ryan Zimmerman's parents told the police that the son was 21 years old and that he had moved out of the house and he had met some people online and he decided to move to Ohio to live in the house with them.
While he was in Columbus, he did speak to his parents from time to time, so it became unusual after September when he quit talking to them or returning phone calls to them.
And they kept in communication, but it was somewhere around September of 2015 that they had not heard from him. And they were beginning to worry about him. And then all of a sudden they got this notice that the car had been impounded. Now this was a car that belonged to Ryan's dad. And so that's why he got the notice. And he was able to go get the car. And when he went to get the car, he still had not gotten contact with Ryan. He wasn't getting any answers from him. They didn't know where he was at. So they filed a missing persons report.
Then Ryan's father got the certified letter that the car that Ryan was driving was impounded, and he needed to make arrangements to get it back. And that's when the father decided to report it to Columbus Police Department when they couldn't locate him.
So they said they told the police they last heard from Ryan in September of 2015. And they are believing that the remains that were found had been there 2 to 3 months. Now, they were found in January 2016, so they determined they were probably there 2 or 3 months before they were found. So this gives you a timeline right around September, October, November area timeline that Ryan probably his body was put there.
The other thing that was really interesting to us was she said that the remains were exposed to the elements, she said less than 12 months, but probably more in the area of 3 to 4 months.
Now, the police have reached out and they are asking anybody that knew Ryan during this time frame, who last saw Ryan in particular, would please contact them so they can figure out the timeline. Now, they do have a couple of people they want to talk to. I don't know if they have or not. They haven't divulged that to anybody. They haven't said, but they did kind of let the media know when they were doing a press conference that they had a couple of people in mind, and what that all meant. They didn't give any much more information than that.
At this point, we're not going to disclose that information right now, as we want to locate them. And like I said, what we need right now is to get Ryan's information out, to get that picture out to people. We may, in the future, we do have some other photos of people that we're interested in talking to that we may share in the future, and ask people to help us get those out. And anybody in the public, I need the media's help to get this information out, but I also need the public's help on social media and stuff. That's one of the upsides to social media. Sometimes there's not a lot of upsides to them, but if everybody shares those, it'll get out beyond our community and out beyond your areas that your news covers, and it may help us get some information.
But I'm thinking they probably can't even build a case until they get more details about Ryan's timeline, where he was last seen, where he was. So if you were in communication with Ryan, and particularly if you saw him during that time period, please reach out to the Merced County Sheriff's Department and let them know. They want to hear from you. So let me give you those phone numbers. Now, Ryan, the Mercer County Sheriff's Office Detective Bureau, they are at 419-586-1450. Now, if you don't want to talk to anybody, you just want to leave a tip, you can also call 567-890-8477, and maybe you can help solve this case and figure out what happened to Ryan and who murdered Ryan.
And you know, this is really important to us. Ryan, obviously a 21, 22-year-old young man, had his whole life ahead of him. There is no reason that his life was cut short. He's got 2 brothers and a sister, correct? 2 brothers and a sister, and a mother and a father. We owe them an explanation.
All right, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.